Let's talk investment opportunities now, though. And in the Brazilian market, my next guest joins me with a specific outlook. Tom Waterhouse, CIO at Waterhouse VC. So a Flutter here for Flutter. Tell us about
exactly.
it.
Well, Brazil opened up at the beginning of this year, and obviously it's very exciting. It's a large, unregulated market. A lot of the grey market operators were making a lot of money out of Brazil, and then they regulated allow online gaming and sports betting, and you saw 130 applications for $6 million each one for licenses there in Brazil earlier this year. So everyone's flooding into the market, and it's going to be a race for scale because there's going to be high taxation and regulations, and the best scale player in the world is Flutter, and they've just had an acquisition this week, NSX, and they've done it time and time again, and I think they're planning to have a big play into Brazil.
So tell us a little bit more about Flutter, because as you say, this significant acquisition in Brazil, but it's also the world's largest listed wagering company.
Yeah, that's right. And they're now listed on the New York Stock Exchange, led by Peter Jackson, who's done a really great job. He's obviously done a great job with the US listing, but he's also done a great job with M&A. They've had a series. They obviously had the big acquisition here of Sportsbet back in 2008, 2009. And they've gone to being now the most dominant player, overtaking Tabcorp in terms of market share, dominant player here in Australia, but they've rolled out that playbook around the world. So they bought FanDuel in the US, which is now the number one operator in the US. They've bought SkyBet in the UK, Betfair, Sissel Group in Italy. They also bought Snay this week as well off Playtech. They just know how to market well, operate very efficiently, and they realise that in highly regulated taxed markets you need to have scale, and they get scale and then they put it in their financial results, the flywheel effect. They basically have that scale that can plough more money back into marketing, into player bonusing, into customer experience, which generates more value off the players, and then they can put it back into marketing and so on.
So with scale, as you're saying, it looks like they're on a bit of an acquisition spree. What do you learn from, I guess, their outlook and their strategy here too?
Well, we focus as Waterhouse VC on the supplier, on the technology layer, because we believe it's, in regulated markets for operators, it's in many ways a winner take all, because scale is so important, and we believe that we're in a cycle over the next 10 years of increasing, opening up of markets, but increasing taxation, increasing regulation and restrictions, and you really do need to have that operational leverage and scale to win in the market. And Flutter, they have the proven track record. They have the management team, they have the global brands, they have the marketing strategy. They're top-notch operators.
More broadly, how interesting is Brazil looking?
Brazil is very exciting. The fact you've got a new market, call it a $4 billion revenue opportunity, probably more. Large population, a few hundred million, a couple of hundred million people. But it's going to be a big fight there. 130 operators all paying $6 million each for a license. There's a lot of competition. We like it as a fund because we are selling the picks and shovels to the operators. So they're all going to want to differentiate on user experience, on technology, on marketing. We think it's a very exciting market.
How does it compare with the Australian market? I'm sure it's very different.
Australia is an amazing market because obviously we've got the largest gambling per capita here. It's people live and breathe betting. And so you see that some of the leading operators around the world are actually Australian. The leading crypto operators, Stake, Sportsbet.io, owned by Australians, the leading betting syndicates in the world, run by Australians, and some of the leading operators around the world are Australians. And Australia is really a blueprint of how regulation and advertising opens up, and then player protection, harm minimisation, restrictions, taxation. It's a blueprint very similar to what happened in Australia has happened in the US, and I think will happen in other markets such as Brazil.
Now, we are getting into the very exciting footy finals, Tom. Tell us what's happening in the betting space in the lead up to the AFL and NRL finals.
Well, it's just amazing now that I haven't been a bookie for sort of 15 years or something, so in terms of on-course bookie, and now that I focus on the tech suppliers, the odds of every game and every race I don't pay as much attention to, but I still love when it gets to this time of year going to, whether it's the finals or going to the big race days. And but in terms of giving you a good tip, those days are done for me.
The days are done, but you're seeing some good, strong demand, I imagine?
Look,
in terms of
the operators here, and this is why we focus on the supplier side, the technology providers, is the operators have not got the same revenue growth as what they had 10 years ago when the market was just opening up. It's a much more mature market, and you've got a few big players. You've had some significant M&A here, like we talked about Flutter before they bought Sportsbet, but they also did the acquisition with PokerStars, which bought BetEasy, William Hill, Sporting Bet, Centerbet, TomWaterhouse.com brand was all in one. So that's a huge roll-up of brands. So you really have scale, mature operators in this market, but not the 20%, 30% revenue growth that you did 10 years ago.
How big do you think Flutter could potentially become? Or how long is a piece of string?
Look, I think Peter Jackson has got seems to have a great plan of being a regulated, large-scale global operator. And I think we're in a cycle of places opening up. You know, I think the rest of the US long-term will open up. I think many countries will open up and say it's better to regulate and tax and put in the harm minimization measures. And if that continues, Flutter's best placed. You know, they know how to do it.